Welcome back to the show. Today, I have a solo podcast about how January 1st doesn't change your body. And most people will say your habits do, but I'm going to change that to whatever you call your standard is what will happen. So I would even say that it's not even your habits, it's your standard for yourself, whatever you hold yourself to, right? That's going to be the thing that really moves the needle. Now, in this episode, I want to talk about a little bit about my transformation, a little bit about my thoughts on what you should do January 1st to get in the best shape of your life if you're a guy that really wants to make that change and make that jump this year. I'm going to break it down so that you can take some valuable pieces from this podcast and get results and make a change in the world. So hopefully you guys tune in. The first thing I want to start off with is, why do most people fail over and over again on January 1st? They're super motivated, their desire is very high, but yet, fall off again. It's this constant struggle, right? And I said it earlier on the show that yes, your habits play a role, but I also believe that your standard for yourself or your identity of what you believe, your standard should be is going to be the most important thing, right? And one of the things that I've always taken from Ed Milet was his analogy of the thermostat, right? And if we go back to this analogy, he talks about how everybody has a thermostat in their life, right? For finances, some people are at 90 degrees, some people are at 100 degrees, with their finances, meaning they have to make a certain amount of money to feel like they're where they need to be, right? Their standard is 90 degrees, right? And then some people, their standard is 70 degrees, 60 degrees. And then this analogy can also be used in your fitness, in your health, right? Some people live at 90 degrees with their fitness and health. They just stay there. That's their standard, right? If they drop below 90 degrees, they get back to 90 degrees very quickly because their standard is that, right? And I think if you look at it that way, when January 1st comes around, if your standard is still the same, you're probably not going to keep the habits. You're probably not going to keep doing what you're supposed to do because your standard is still just okay with mediocre. You're okay with being average. You're okay with having, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds to lose and not being in terrible shape. These are the things we tell ourselves, right? These are the things that keep us in this state of just frustration, right? And completely not aligned with our goals. Now, here is kind of the concept that I want you guys to remember. If you can raise your standard, if you can raise the identity that you hold about yourself, you'll have to start doing the habits that you need to stay there, right? And that's when it starts to click. But you also have to know the how. And I wanted to give you guys practical, not just mindset stuff. So, practically speaking, I said this on my Instagram the other day that eating healthy is not the solution. It's a huge myth out there that you can just eat healthy. It's so vague, it's so not real, and you turn to the person that says, "Oh, if I just eat more salads, if I just eat gluten-free cookies, if I am a vegetarian, I'll be healthy. If I am keto, I'll be healthy." And it's just so vague and so not like practical, right? Healthy is very much more about the amounts that you're eating. You got to have consistency. You got to be able to not overeat. You've got to be able to not, undereat, and you got to have accountability. If you're overeating, it doesn't matter if you're eating a salad every day. It literally has no correlation whatsoever. Yes, whatever. You could be proud of yourself for eating a salad, but it's not going to fix the underlying issue. You got to eat for a goal. You got to have a plan in place this year. This year is going to be different. Then you've got to attack this time period a little bit differently. It really comes from structure, not just looking at this black and white, I'm eating healthy or I'm not. You know, I always ask people, like, how far has that gotten you? This idea that you're going to eat healthy this year, how far has that ever gotten you? I was on that roller coaster for so long, man. And as soon as I decided that I was going to figure out how much protein, carbs, fats, calories that my body needed to hit a certain goal is when things actually changed for me. And I know that it can be the same for you, right? So get a structure, stop following some random person online that says this is healthy, this is not, don't eat this, eat that. You can't have chocolate, you can't have sugar. It's just all the nonsense that keeps you trapped and keeps you stuck. Learn piece by piece what it is for you and what you need to achieve that. If your calories aren't in check, it doesn't matter how healthy you eat. If you're not eating the right amount of protein, it doesn't matter how healthy you eat, right? Those things will correlate to each other. Once you start hitting those top things, the other stuff will just fall into place. I didn't worry about eating healthy until I first was completely shredded. And I did that by getting my calories and protein in check, right? After I did that, then I started substituting different foods, tried to feel better because I just wanted to feel better, right? The first step is figuring out your body weight. The second step is figuring out how to feel better day to day, more energy, more vitality, right? And then the third step is longevity. How can I live longer? How can I prolong my life? And most people need to just figure out step one. That's the truth. And it doesn't have to be as hard as you think, right? So calories matter, protein matter, consistency matter, recovery matters, but it all comes in an order, in my opinion. That's why people eat clean, still get fat, or they eat clean, they don't even lose a single pound because without a process and a plan in place, it's never going to get you there. Now, one of the things I think about with January coming up is, and I'm doing this in my life right now. I'm looking at my finances and I'm looking at different areas, my fitness, my relationships, and I have a coach like keeping me accountable, keeping me on track. And it's so interesting how if you have the same plan, the same goal, you'll get the same results. But for some reason, us humans, we think that it's going to change this year because we're more motivated or we had this whatever, but this frustration. But did you actually track last year? Did you train with intent? Did you quit when motivation dipped, right? It will all happen again if you don't have the systems in place, if you don't have your temperature set to where you really want to go and make sure that it's a non-negotiable. Motivation gets you started, systems keep you going. Your identity truly is what shapes you though. If I were to like break this down into a practical like actionable list, here's like some of the things that I wrote down before this podcast as I was thinking about this topic and like thinking about the new year and thinking about myself and how many times I've repeated the same year and how many times I've told myself that this year is going to be different and how many times you got to decide that your standard is going to be different. Decide who you want to become, not what you're trying to lose. Now, what do I mean by that? If you just sit there and think about, oh, I have to give up food, sugar, this, all the foods I have to give up, it's a lot harder versus deciding who I want to become and then figuring out a plan to get there. Way more exciting, way more desirable. Make it simple so you can follow it, track it. My favorite way of doing this is called the power list. You write down 5 critical tasks that you need to do every day to move you forward to the person that you want to become, not 5 outcomes. I used to write 5 outcomes. Don't write the outcomes, write the things you have to do to get the outcome. Who cares about the outcome? It will come when it comes, but just write down the 5 critical things that you have to do to move yourself closer. Because this is mostly a fitness and sales podcast, write down the things with your fitness. 10,000 steps, train 3 times a week. Again, those are the things that I write down to make sure that I hit my fitness goals, hit my protein daily, right? It's non-negotiable because my standard for myself is high. And so I have to do those things if I want to stay there, right? So power list, write down 5 things. That's a good practical way of doing it. And make sure that you make January 1st a time to reevaluate yourself and reevaluate where you want to go and make sure that This time your standards are going to be different. This time you're not going to rely on motivation or just January 1st being the day that you change, right? It's got to be different this year. If you want help from me, listen, follow me on Instagram, follow this podcast. I have a ton of different links to guide you, free groups, things like that. I am creating this Q method structure based on what has helped me and how I can help guys do what I've done in less time, right? My transformation, I lost 60 pounds. I've been around 10 to 12% body fat for the last 3-4 years. I've had, my son, I've had kids, I've had busy times, I've had good times, but my standard has been the same and it's never going to change. It's only going to get higher, right? As I go about this. That is what I would say about January 1st. Your daily actions are going to decide your body, your results. Boil it down to 5 critical tasks that you're going to wake up and do. Hit those tasks because your standards are high. Turn the thermostat up. Never lower your standards. Never lower anything. Don't listen to people that say it doesn't matter. Don't listen to people that say, oh, you don't need more money. You don't need to be in better shape. You don't need to have a better fitness level. I'm here to tell you, you do. You have permission to go for the things you want. Enjoy the process. Never get caught up in always chasing the next thing. Also, at the same time, don't settle for the life you feel now. Enjoy every day. Become a winner. Hit this next year the best way you can. I hope you got value from this podcast. I'm going to have some awesome guests in this next year. I'm excited for my podcast. I'm excited to keep bringing the heat on here. I love the podcast. I love bringing my ideas into this podcast. So let me know if you guys have topics. Let me know if you guys have ideas that you want me to speak about. But let's make this year the year that we change our standards.